What is up, Gig Nation? Welcome back to the channel. A few months back, I started delivering with UberEats. I've now got 125 deliveries under my belt, but I've noticed that there are some things starting to change. When I first got onto the platform, it was mid-pandemic, and honestly, payouts were really good. A lot of this was because customers were tipping more on the app, so I decided to start taking the platform more seriously. And I wasn't the only one. There's a lot of people that were making a lot of money with UberEats during the pandemic, like this guy who made over $8,000 in the month of June just by delivering with UberEats. But there are now some rumors circulating that UberEats has been changing up their pay model. In this video, we're gonna take a look at exactly what those rumors are and if there's any truth to them. So I first got tipped off to this because of a comment in a Facebook group that I manage, Gig Nation. If you haven't checked that out yet, make sure to do so because we talk about all of the different gigs. And one of the members of that group essentially said that they've been noticing lower orders on Uber Eats lately. Now, in my personal experience, I had definitely seen a few lower orders, but my overall earnings hadn't really changed that much because I don't spend much time accepting the low orders, so even if they do pop up, I don't really worry about them. I'll show you a few of my orders recently that I've delivered, and it's still that consistent, about $10 an offer. Now keep in mind that I do live in Seattle, so they have a premium pay of $2.50 added on to every single order. And this is a nice buffer for earnings, and it also makes it harder to recognize when Uber is making changes. And I'm probably not the only one that has a hard time noticing when Uber makes changes. That's because they're not all that transparent about their pay. They do tell you that they pay per mile and they pay per time, but they don't tell you what that number is. So if things change, if they go up or they go down, there's not really a whole lot to go off of other than just seeing orders pop up in your app and wondering if this is part of a greater trend or if it's just a one-time thing. So let's dive into a couple of theories, and then I'm going to tell you how to address this and any potential changes that are happening. One of the more popular theories that I've heard was actually within the Gig Nation group as well. And one of the members replied that Uber Eats had recently bought Postmates, and Postmates does have a lower payout threshold than Uber Eats. Postmates floor is like $2.50 per order, while Uber Eats is usually about $3 on the low side nationally per order. So it is possible, although I do not feel that Uber Eats has fully absorbed Postmates. I think that platform is still operating on its own. It's possible that they are testing out a lower threshold in certain areas where Postmates had also been paying its drivers less to see how it works out. And this is why we would see that $2.50 payout that certain drivers are noticing. Now keep in mind that when you're delivering food, most of the time you are working for the tips. It's important that Uber contributes, but as you can see the expected earnings up front, what we're really working for is those higher paying tips. And for those of you that have delivered a while, you know that generally speaking, after you drop off an order, what you come to find is that that expected tip is usually spot on, and sometimes you end up getting paid more. So any minor fluctuations to pay shouldn't have too big of an impact on driver earnings in the long run. Also keep in mind that we are independent contractors and we are allowed to reject low paying offers. It's never fun to see them pop up. It's always demoralizing when something pops up for $2 or $3 and you're asked to drive a few miles. You know that at the end of a trip like this, unless you get a really good tip, you're really not making much, and you might actually be losing money depending on the cost to operate your vehicle. But while this is demoralizing, it's something that you can easily look past. Keep your sight on the long-term earning trends. I encourage you to go back and look over your payouts, see what your average is over the days, see what your best days are and your best averages, and focus on Uber Eats during those days. A lot of drivers also like to multi-app. Now, I'm not saying that you should be delivering for multiple platforms at the same time, but having other platforms that you can switch between to get those higher payouts. If a certain platform seems to be throwing you low offers for some reason, I like to also throw Grubhub in the mix. I get fewer orders through Grubhub. I can't really rely on it, but I definitely see a lot of high payouts on that platform as well. And there's also a lot of things that you can do to maximize tips. Recently, I've been delivering with a heating pad within my heat bag, and I use this in order to keep those deliveries warmer. Customers like that. It results in higher tips. So some of those payouts where I didn't expect to get as much on the tip, I've actually seen really good tips. Now, I can't really confirm or deny that any of this is related to the heat pad, but what I will say is that orders are definitely getting delivered to customers warmer. Let me know what you're seeing on the Uber Eats app. Are you seeing lower payouts? How much have they dropped? Do you think this is related to the Postmates acquisition? Do you think this is a long-term trend? It's really, hard to say where anything is going because once again, we don't know exactly what Uber Eats is doing as far as pay per mile and pay per time, and whether they're just testing something or whether they're going to be running this long term. There's definitely a lot of changes occurring within the gig economy. Recently, Prop 22 was passed, and that means that drivers are not going to be full-time employees. Now, this is good for Uber, DoorDash, Postmates, Instacart, Lyft, all of these companies, because it's going to help their revenue, help their earnings. It definitely would have costed them a lot more to take on full-time employees. But at least in California, Uber has now promised drivers that if they're on the app at least 15 hours a week, and by on the app, I mean actually delivering or giving a ride, not looking for deliveries or looking for rides, that they will be paying for 50% of a bronze healthcare plan. And if you bump that up, I believe it's 35 hours on the app, they're going to be comping 82% of that plan. So this is actually big news for gig workers and drivers. It does mean that you'll have reduced healthcare expenses if you can stick to a single app. You know, a lot of people that are multi-apping may not be able to rack up this many hours between having multiple apps. You have to have it all on one platform to get that contribution. So you really got to pick your favorite here, stick to that, and it could result in some reduction in your healthcare expenses. But this also means that while Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, all of those companies are going to be saving money in contrast to what they would have been spending if AB5 was held up and we were all full-time employees, at least in California, they're still spending more. I mean, they still are paying more for these new benefits that they are bringing to the table, and it's possible that that could result in changes in pay to make up for that. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the latest gig economy news and updates.